And hello everyone, it's really lovely to see you all, or to meet you all virtually, I should say. My name's Robin, as David mentioned, and I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm also a business mentor as well. So today what I'm going to be starting with is just a bit of background to share with you about my journey to what I'm doing now, how I started out in my career, but I'm also going to take us through a really interactive exercise as well. So if I just dive into, rewind 30 years, I grew up in Southeast London, in Lewisham. And actually, when I was growing up, I didn't know exactly what it was that I found that I was able to sort of move through. And eventually I did get the grades that I needed to in order to pursue the career of my choice. But it was in my teen years that I also came up against some challenges. I experienced low mood and anxiety, and especially in social settings, I was painfully shy. And I went through a period of time where even being in crowds of people that I knew, let alone strangers, brought me to a place of experiencing what I now recognize were panic attacks. And so it was very difficult for me. I remember the last case study. The final one we looked at, where this is a man who was a victim of racism. He turned to alcohol and drugs in his lowest times. And very sadly, his father died in a car crash in his early 20s. Case study number 3, shall we see who that is? That was actually Barack Obama, the first African-American elected president of the United States and the first Black editor of the prestigious Harvard Law Review. So I think that this activity, what it illustrates for us, in essence, is that life is not always linear, that the way how things begin is not always how they end up. And that actually, oftentimes, it is the obstacles that we face that not only present opportunities to overcome, but often can be very instrumental in actually informing how we then progress in our life, but also how we can reach back and help others too. So just to end with some things to remember, number 1 is to follow your passion. So do what you enjoy, do what's meaningful to you. You might not know exactly what you want to do in terms of your career at this precise moment, but be mindful of the things that you're passionate about. Take notice of those, because often they can actually lead us into what might be the thing that we do end up doing. See our obstacles actually as opportunities. Recognize that failure is not final, but in fact, it's actually a stepping stone. It's just a stepping stone on the way to success. And finally, this is an important one. Remember that what you do now doesn't have to be what you do forever. My jobs start, I worked in a kitchen, I was cleaning dishes, I've cleaned toilets in a restaurant, I've gone on to work in retail, done lots of different things which maybe at the time didn't necessarily feel like the thing that I wanted to do, but they happened to be what I was doing at that moment. So don't feel that where you are now is where you have to remain if that's not what you aspire to do in the end. Remember that oftentimes it's not only our work experience that is it's not a linear journey, but often it's the experiences that we have from our life and also the transferable skills that we gain in our different remits of life that inform our next journey. So look for transferable skills wherever you can from your experience.
Already interested in obstetrics and gynecology, what I am now. And I remember when I was in the UK, whilst I was studying, there was lots of exams that I had to take. When we were studying, preparing for exams, the groups of people, other doctors from all over the world, from Africa, from Asia. And I remember we were talking about the challenges as non-UK trained doctors as to getting the system and getting, getting the specialty that we would like. And I remember somebody was telling me that don't waste your time with what you want to do obstetrics and gynecology. 1, it's too long, and 2, because you're not trained, you're not UK based and you're not trained, it would be extremely almost impossible for you to get it. So I remember the advice I was given was to go into general practice or to go into psychiatry, which are all great professions, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I did go for the interviews twice for general practice. I got the interviews, I was given the job, and I turned it down. I remember the last time I turned the job down, I was like, well, this is not really what I want to do. I want to do obstetrics and gynecology. And I said, well, I just have to give it a go. And I did. It was long. It was, there are times when I actually wanted to give up. But my family, my mom, my faith, those what saw me through. And I think I was kind of really dedicated. So eventually got to the end, became a consultant, obstetrician and gynecologist, practiced for about 5-6 years before moving over to the Middle East. First example I gave was my teacher, okay? People can tell you that, no, you're not good enough. No, you cannot do this. You cannot achieve it. But if it's something that deep down you believe you can, it's almost very important that you need to silence those voices, okay? Other challenges could be in the form of situations, things that you have absolutely no control over. For me, the second challenge was the war, the situation in the country, okay? I had to wait about 18 months, no university, everything just came to a standstill, okay? But I still persevered. Other challenges could be in the form of finance. You might think, okay, I don't have the finances to do it. And there's always ways around that, okay? Always short of doctors. They're always looking for doctors. So there's always space, and they're trying to encourage people to go into that profession. It's also important to volunteer with a charity. Even if you don't want to pursue medicine, it's something that I did and never regret it. I was a founder member of a charity a couple of years ago. And a couple of years ago, I went back to Africa, just helped to work without being paid. But it is really rewarding. So it's something that I urge everyone to do. It doesn't have to be that you're interested in medicine or anything. To be involved in charity, go around and help people. It is really fulfilling, and it's very good on your CV as well. So if you're looking for university, or if eventually in the future for a job, that really counts. Okay, it just shows that all that's all part of character building as well. In my chosen field for medicine, how to get work experience, it's quite easy. I gave you an example. If you don't know a doctor, okay, one thing you can do if you don't know a doctor personally, you can speak to your GP, go to your GP. If you go to your GP, have a chat with them, so you're interested. They're more than willing to help. I've received an email just from the blue. Someone just sent me an email saying that they're interested in medicine. They would like to do work experience in our hospital. As I say, we're trying to encourage, because we are short of doctors. We're always short of doctors. So you just send an email, even to a hospital, right to the HR department of a particular hospital, and they're more than willing to help. You know, they do encourage work experience. So it shouldn't be difficult with regards to the medical field.
Perfect, thank you. And Robin, just off the back of that, someone else also put, do you think it will be beneficial to have a mentor in your chosen field? So if you could just answer that question then, Robin.
Sure. I do think that in the field of dietetics, it is helpful to speak to someone who's already in the industry. So for myself, I know that people have reached out to me before just to ask for some guidance on how to navigate into a career as a dietitian. If you are looking for anyone to maybe give you guidance, it would be helpful to think about what's your area of interest if you have one. For nutrition, for instance, if you want to work within a clinical setting in a hospital, or if you're more interested in being in industry or in public health, then LinkedIn is a really good place to begin. Maybe reaching out by sending a message to ask if someone would be happy to either meet with you for a virtual coffee in the current circumstances, or to sort of, answer any questions that you might have, and that can strike up a good relationship in that way.
Did any of you have any doubts during your studies?
I definitely did. I know that for me, and I can, especially because of the challenges that I had with numbers, which became very apparent to me when I was at university. I always knew that I struggled with them when I was at school, but when I was at university, it became even more apparent, because when you're working out someone's nutritional requirements, it's very important that you get it right. And I think that on the ward, I got really flustered and I'd get a bit confused about where I was with numbers. And I actually ended up speaking to my lecturer about it. She pinpointed that something, she recognized that I was having some challenges there. So I think that getting support was really important. And also I had worries about, was I going to be able to do it? Because I thought, if this is the challenges I'm facing in the, while I'm studying, how will I do it in practice? But what that showed me was how important it is that no matter what your maybe challenges are, that oftentimes it is just getting the right support or the right strategies. And for me, that began with having it was actually a dyslexia test, which actually then led on to them realizing that it was more to do with numbers. So I think that that's something to bear in mind, that if you can get support, if you need, where you need it, that can often help you to move. Happy to try and answer this one. I think that one of the things that I can suggest is start with looking at what do you enjoy? What do you consider your skills to be? How do other people maybe describe your attributes? Because sometimes it can be hard for us to name them ourselves, but speak to the people that you know, and they can tell you, oh, well, you're really good at speaking to people, and you might not have thought that yourself. Or they might say, actually, you're really good at coming up with solutions. And sometimes it's actually looking at what are the skills that you already hold and possess that can really help you to move forward in any given career. And then also the other thing is just try things out. Actually, you know, following on from what Sarah had mentioned about, Dr. Sarah had mentioned about, you know, doing shadowing opportunities or speaking to people, let's say you were, you know, whichever the industry is that you're interested in, to get a feel for what it's about. Even if you can't in person go and shadow, maybe having conversations to understand what the profession entails, so that you can then be like, that's a no for me, or that's a yes. Then you might get a feel for it. And remember the key point, that one of the learning points I'd shared was, what you do now, or what you think you might want to do now, doesn't have to be what you maybe land on, because it might just be what gets you on the path towards what you eventually do.
Activity. So every week we're going to be having different speakers from different fields and different sectors. Next week we're actually going to be joined by Emmanuel Akinfenwa. He's going to be facilitating the session, and that's actually topics on living through a crisis. So how do we cope? How do students cope, you know, during this coronavirus pandemic, and other ways of being engaged and, you know, active, seeing as you guys can't be in school at this time. The week after, we're actually talking about the current race issues that you probably are seeing across the media, you know, what's going on. And that's going to be led by Zion Zachary. So we're going to be talking about, you know, the race issues and how, you know, the community and how you as students, the next generation, could help and make a brighter future. And then